Ever wondered why we treat pleasure like a guilty little secret instead of life's essential spice? We've been doing it wrong, folks. Sitting down with Dominique D'Vita, who shares all about the miseducation of sexuality. And we're kind of busting myths and breaking taboos and putting pleasure back on its well-deserved pedestal. So, with this episode, we invite you to get cozy with yourself and spice up that longest relationship you'll ever have, the one with your fabulous self.
Hi, and welcome to the Scenic Route podcast, where we believe in embracing life's journey with purpose, curiosity, and a bit of potty humor. I'm one uncool mom, and I'm always looking out for that perfect slice of gluten-free rhubarb pie. Every week, I get the joy of sitting down with dreamers and doers who dare to take the road less traveled in pursuit of their own magic. Together, we dive into the inspiring stories of soulful entrepreneurs and visionary leaders who boldly share their beliefs, lessons, and fuck-ups. Excited? So am I. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And now, let's take this conversation off the beaten track.
Dominique D'Vita's mission is to help you live a life fully from a place of magic, love, and abundance. As a registered nurse and a certified transformational Tantra coach, she is a healer. Think Marvin Gaye's sexual healing labels aside, she saves and transforms lives. She believes that by blending science and spirituality, we can better understand our bodies, respect ourselves, and deepen our connection with our partners. That's why she uses a holistic approach in coaching to focus on harnessing the power of your body to master self-love. Ultimately, the self-love leads us to experience the pure bliss of soulful, connected love. Basically, she is the coach who teaches you how to get off the best while getting the most out of life. Dominique, welcome to the Scenic Route podcast.
Lovely to be here.
Dominique, when people hear the title, they will already go like, sexuality, intimacy, pleasure. And some people go like, hell yeah, bring it on. And others are like, yeah, I don't know, I'd rather not talk about it.
Right.
Which feels so odd, right? I feel our world right now is so overly sexualized. And there's so much, it feels like there's so much porn available all the time, every day, all day. And still, or because of it, I don't know, real intimacy is scarce. So what do you think? Where did it all go wrong? Did it go wrong? What do you say?
Such a great question. There's so many layers of this to unpack, but I'm just going to dive in here and throw in some things about what I'm
We
thinking,
go
what
fast
comes off
deep.
the tie.
This is how we roll.
Yes.
So buckle up.
All right. Hold on. Let me put my belt on. Okay. Safety first. So within this, I feel like we have perverted sex. Like sex is meant to be this whole other thing. And in our modern world, and even for thousands of years too, we've perverted it and taken away the beauty, the power, the essence of what it's truly meant to be. And also, if you think about how often have you heard in marketing or in sales that sex sells? So much of our things are images, things and we see in media, commercials, TV shows, these really quick, fast-paced love scenes. And when you see the love scenes in movies or different shows, it's not realistic as to what it's really like. It's not going to show that sometimes the person is taking slower to be aroused, or sometimes the woman is taking longer to have a climax. And so it's just like this really fast thing, a lot of desire, a lot of passion. It's just staged so, because it's a scene, it's acting.
Well, I mean, if you have like a 20-minute TV series, I mean, you got to cut to the chase fast. I mean, for the plot,
exactly.
Which makes sense.
Exactly. So, but then we get this idea in our mind, in our subconscious programming evening, of what this should look like or be. And then if we go and look at adult videos, those things are definitely acting and not realistic, not reality based, more fantasy based. But if we're trying to emulate that and copy that so that we can be good in bed, because just think about it, like, oh, they're celebrities, they're the adult stars, they're getting paid to do this. They must know what they're doing if they're getting paid to do it. let me watch. And I know before Tantra, once I'd read this thing, maybe it was in Cosmopolitan or somewhere, that I read this thing about, you know, things in the bedroom, and saying,
Mhm.
oh, it would be a fun idea to be with your lover and watch an adult video and try to be recreating it in your room as it's going, like play by play. And initially, years ago, when younger, me was like, that could be fun. But you just think that it's
Depends on
like,
the video, I suppose. I mean,
depends on the video. Exactly. It would have to be something that you were inspired, that it excited you, right? But it's kind of that thing of, oh man, that should be really sexy and really hot to do that, right? But the reality of it is that it's truly not. We forget that these people are paid and they're actors and
yeah.
actresses, and this is like not real life. So we've been dumbed down. Like, this has ended up being our sex education,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and it's really been our miseducation.
Mm.
And the way that we have perverted it, and then the shame with religion, with all these things in society, have put so much shame on this as well. We're getting mixed signals, like media, marketing, other things are like, oh, sex sells, provocative, enticing. And then on the other hand, you have, this is bad, this is wrong, good girls don't do this,
Yeah.
you're not
And
wifey
just the mixed
material.
messaging for women alone is driving you insane, right? We have to be like this demure maiden, pure Snow White Disney princess. Thank you very much. Fucked us up. And then kind of like this, but at the same time, oh, you got to be slutty in the bedroom. But if you're slutty with everyone, you're just a slut. Like it's very, I don't know, an invisible line that is very culturally shift depending of what is socially acceptable and what's not.
Yeah. And then you have, for a long time, there's actually been men that have, and, I love men, I coach men and women. I don't like to have like the battle of the sexes, but these are just things that we have learned from watching our parents, our grandparents, and how our society has been structured, right? So another thing you'll commonly see too is how men, once they have a child with someone, then they may not be as sexually attracted to them or think of them that way, because now they're looking at them as like, this is the mother of my child. They're going to be kissing my
Like a
children on the mouth.
holidification of the woman as a mother.
Yeah. So you got the
Mm.
whole thing, the Madonna whore complex in a way. So then
Yeah.
these men, to go into their lust and their desires, they don't want to put that on that person. So then they'll go outside of the marriage to have those adventures.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's a real complex thing. But I teach Tantra, and these practices are very similar also to Taoist practices. Taoist practices are from China. The emperors would use it to tap into their power. And in Tantra, these practices weren't even about sex, but they were practices to help you get into enlightenment, your self-actualization, higher
Mm.
levels of consciousness, really radiating your energy, just really tapping in
Mm-hmm.
and
Like a
being
form of
empowered
meditation,
within
if you
yourself.
will, right? Like,
Exactly. Yeah,
mm.
meditation is a white Tantra practice, and this is from over
Oh,
5,000 years. But they would not let the common people in these regions know about these practices, because they realized how powerful they were and how empowering they were. And it's so much easier to control a population when they're disempowered. So
very true.
these, so when I say, well, why didn't my mom or my grandparents teach me these practices from 5,000 years ago? Well, they weren't learning them either,
Oh God, no. I mean, my boomer
right?
parents, like, no. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Yes. I had one lover though that was really amazing, and I was already teaching Tantra and doing that, and I never had to guide him on anything. Not like I go in there and like nitpick my lovers when I'm with him. That kind of sounds scary, right? But I never had to give him any guidance or
Yeah.
suggestions in a loving way. And he shared with me that his dad had a kind of like a tantric Taoist book that he found when he was a teenager, and he started doing the
Oh,
exercises and practices in there. So he already mastered this on his own. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. He has been one of my best lovers I've ever had. And he's never been like formally Tantra trained, but his father had this book. Now, if we had more of our parents that had this type of wisdom to share with us, of us really knowing how to tap into the power within us and all the access, the deepest and the most, like, the buried treasure that's within us. But we
mm-hmm.
are taught in society also to be good consumers of, we need this thing, shiny object outside of us. We need to
Yeah, it's
acquire this material
capitalism
thing.
101.
Exactly. And we're always taught, we're bombarded with media and messaging of, that we are not enough, that we are missing this thing. If we had this, then people would desire us, then we would be more successful, we would be more respected. So, and, get the house, the college degree, the car, the wife, the kids, all of these little things. And I say the trappings of success, but it is a trap. And you're going to find this may not bring you the fulfillment, but we're always outwardly seeking. But it's Tantra and these other practices. And with sex, when you have enlightened or conscious sex, it's about really cultivating your inner world, and your outer world is just a reflection of your inner world. So when you start to change things in here and tap into your true power through pleasure, through, and pleasure is medicine, right? And then also whenever you're able to tap into, if you think about your sacral chakra, and I have a little diagram for those that are watching on the wall behind me, and the orange circle towards the bottom is the sacral chakra, and that's connected to the reproductive organs, and it's also connected to our creativity. So this is our life force energy, our chi, our vitality. But when we shut or repress that down because of shame or conditioning or fear, or we've had a traumatic experience, so we feel disempowered around this and we don't feel safe with that energy, we shut it down. We're literally shutting down our life force energy, and that's impacting our health. It's impacting our ability to be successful. It's having a negative impact on our creativity, because this is creation energy. We were literally created from this energy. There should be no shame in such creation, right?
100%. Oh, my mind is already like spinning. There's so much truth. So I'm kind of like recapping. From what you said, we have like, it's the miseducation of sexuality that's currently going on, or what's happening. And we have so many things that shape our perception of sexuality and intimacy and pleasure. Like some are completely out of our control, like culture, or like we have the roles we take on or that have been placed upon us that shape how we interact with sexuality, or like our identity, our self-worth, our how we see ourselves, our body image as well. So it's incredibly nuanced. And what I don't want to happen right now for anyone listening in who is like, oh, overwhelmed, where can we start untangle this and be like, oh, okay, you know what? I would love to feel more pleasure in my life. It might be sexual pleasure or other pleasure, because those are definitely intertwined. How can I start and tangle this and be more intimate, have more intimacy in my life, or be more sexual in a way that is truly an expression of who I am and the sexuality I want?
Well, anyone that's listening, and if this is activating for you and it's making you feel a little stressed or anxious in your body, connect with your body and take some nice, long, slow, deep belly breaths, just stretching your belly with air like a balloon. And just drop into that, because whenever we stretch and breathe deeply like that, it stretches and pulls on our vagus nerve, and it slows down our nervous system. So just know this is a safe space to have a respectful conversation. And if you're not at this point in your life and you're not comfortable with your sexuality, that's okay. This is an honoring of that as well, but just an invitation to look kind of behind the curtain at maybe some of the things that we're missing, because there could be a way to be experiencing pleasure within your body in a way that is deeply healing and empowering for you. It's just that we've experienced it sometimes in ways that have been disempowering, or have been disrespectful, or haven't been honoring of us. And also the beliefs we get programmed to have about shame in our bodies as early as age 15 months old. We start being programmed with shame. Think about how pervasive shame is too, about how even in schools, how often we were shamed to be disciplined or controlled. Don't make me send you to the principal's office. You want me to put you in the corner, like these
the
types
quiet
of things.
steps,
Right.
all those kinds of things. Yeah.
Right. So we have so much shame. And if you want to think of, the emotional frequency scale, think of like an upside down triangle. At the very bottom, the emotion of shame vibrates at the frequency of 20 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
That is even lower than hate, love, hate, anger, fear. Now, for about 400 hertz is around the frequency of, love within your heart chakras are like 400 hertz, joy, bliss, 500, 600 up. And then if you're getting to like really high stages level of enlightenment, you might think someone like with Christ consciousness or very tapped in individual, they're going to be maybe a frequency of 700. So imagine if your vibration and your frequency is only 20 hertz. And we think about like attracts like. So law of attraction, we're going to be attracting those lower vibrational frequency experiences.
So we might attract partners who also feel deeply ashamed about how they express their sexuality.
Exactly. So when we first start on our own, because that's one big misconception with Tantra that delayed my journey by a decade was I thought I needed a partner to begin, but you don't. It just starts with you, and you are your longest lasting relationship from your first breath to your last. And if anyone deserves to enjoy your body, it's you. This is your body. So when we become our own best lover, then we actually can be better lovers. We attract better lovers, but it's first allowing us to receive this for ourselves and really feeling sometimes we can feel safer with ourselves, because to really enjoy pleasure with another, it's so important that we have safety, that we can trust them. And so sometimes we haven't been in those ideal, healthier relationships or dynamics. So we might not feel as safe, but we could feel safe within ourselves. And then allow ourselves to feel pleasure for a prolonged period of time, because those prolonged states of ecstatic bliss, and you're breathing deeply again and breathing that pleasure all through your body into each one of your cells, really improves your vitality. It expands, your vibration, your aura field, and it's just so deeply healing for you. And you can, but a lot of times, even if we do self pleasure, we know our bodies so well that we know how to go from point A to B really fast. And but if a lover was to take that little time with us and give us a quickie, we may resent that. And our bodies are the same. It's like, why aren't you taking your time with me?
Yeah.
So if we would stop looking for other relationships and other people to adore us, to love us, to validate us, to give us attention and time, first do it for ourselves. And then we'll attract other people that also know how to treat us that same way. So we start to raise the bar, and we show other people how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves.
This is so true, and it's so beautiful. Like, it really, so is this what Tantra is about? Kind of like raising the bar for yourself, starting with yourself, and then prolonging the moments of intensity of pleasure, kind of like stretching it out.
Yes. And it's not initially, like I said, Tantra wasn't created for this, but the byproduct of it is that people that know how to connect with themselves so deeply, they're so in tune to their body through breath work, mindfulness, meditation, and they know how to connect so deeply within themselves. When you know how to connect deeply within yourself, you know how to connect deeply with another, because we can only meet someone else as deeply as we've met ourselves. We can only meet someone else's emotions as deeply as we've met with our own emotions. So it starts with us. And the other thing I want to say with your chakras and your energy centers, Tantra has a lot of tools to help to begin to heal from trauma. And over 95% of adults received inadequate parenting. I've been a nurse for decades, but then I got my certification as a trauma-informed master coach. And it was mind-blowing what I learned about childhood trauma in the nervous system. And when I was going through all my trauma modules, they were saying the 3 things that help to heal trauma are breath, sound, and movement, which that really blew my mind, because for over 5,000 years, the 3 tenets of Tantra are breath, sound, and movement. So these
Wow.
tools,
Okay.
yeah. So again, pleasure is medicine. I was like, oh, this is how I began healing. So as I started doing these techniques and breathing more deeply, feeling sound in my body, moving and getting stuck in energies, and emotions are just energies in motion, and those painful emotions and traumas and experiences, and been able to release them and let them go and kind of clear myself, then I was able to have better experiences and be attracted to healthier relationships. Because a lot of times when we're dating, relationships are just a mirror to us, reflecting back the relationship we have with ourselves. And often, if we haven't healed imagine 95% of adults received inadequate parenting, to circle back to that. So then that means the majority of the people in the dating pool have also experienced that. And have they gotten any support on this? Are they even self-aware that this is happening? Or are they just dating and just trying to push that to the side and pretend that doesn't exist? And then they're wondering why they continue to have so many dysfunctional relationships, because that's what I did before Tantra.
Yeah. Why do I always attract like the same partner who is like not good for me, or just not healthy for me, or all these? Yeah. It's really beautifully empowering that the core message is really, if you want to attract a different kind of sexuality or intimacy in your life, it kind of starts with you and how you think about yourself, and how you can achieve that through like breath, sound, and movement. Are there like, I don't know, newbie Tantra exercises that anyone can do to kind of like feel into this? Like breathwork is always probably the easiest for me anyway, because I started with breathwork. Um, what are your kind of like your favorite little exercises that you can do throughout the day to kind of like center back to this core principle of pleasure, of starting with yourself?
Yeah, it definitely, again, it all starts with you. And that's also so empowering, right? This is how we take our power back. And this is how we can show up for ourselves. So meditation is a white Tantra practice, and it really helps us because our brain is our largest sex organ. And we're in a society where we operate from the neck up, right? We're just taught as children to be these robots. How many facts can you remember? What's your IQ, your SATs?
Yeah. The
what's your
body,
job?
the knowledge of the brain is definitely rated more important than the knowledge of the body.
Yes. And so what happens is we're really disconnected from our bodies. And Tantra really helps us with these tools and using our 5 senses to drop and connect to our bodies, so we actually can experience more pleasure, and we know how to connect deeper instead of just doing everything from our mind thinking. We can actually feel, and even feel into what's going on within our lover and their body once we have this attunement and this connection to our own. So meditation practice, even starting for 5 or 10 minutes, is really great. It also helps your neuroplasticity with learning other things, if there's other things that you need to learn. So that's one. And then doing something, even let's say if we're going to do something a little spicy, if you're going to have a self-pleasure section, then what I would want you to do is, one, dance for a little bit before you even start.
Oh, yes. Just for yourself. Put on your favorite music.
Because dancing incorporates all 3 things. You're breathing more deeply whenever you're dancing. You're increasing your respiratory rate. You're having the movement. You're moving your body. You're moving the energy, the stagnant energy in our bodies. I want you to think of a body of water. And if the water's stagnant and it has all that film across the top, that's just a place for disease to begin. But if a river is flowing, the water's healthier, such a good image. Clear.
Yes.
So we want this energy flowing through our bodies. We don't want to cut off or restrict because we're like, oh, my sexual energy is bad and I'm not that kind of person, or I don't want to make even for males, I want to disconnect from my sexual energy because I don't want women to perceive me as predatorial. So we're just shutting things down, right? Being the Mr. Nice Guy and the good girl, right?
Yeah.
It really impacts us. And so for men, this can be challenging too, because then they can shut them down so much that they're not feeling any kind of desire anytime they're seeing a woman, that then they have challenges having erections altogether. I see this a lot.
Wow.
It's really wild how this starts to play on our subconscious. So whenever, again, we're dancing, you have that movement. So you're moving those energies. And then if you're singing along too with it, that's really great for your throat chakra, and you're using sound. And sound is like a thief. It steals the tension from our bodies. So when we're having tension, we're not feeling, we're like this and constricted. We're not feeling as much pleasure and as the sensations and the juiciness of it all. So just dancing a little bit is great. And then the movements, if you sway your hips like a circle 8, just moving it like that, what will happen?
I mean, I have white girl dance moves, but I can do the 8.
It's okay. You could do the 8. I used to have white girl dance moves too. It was wild. And then one of my besties when I was young taught me to dance, and then I was out of control. But it took me a long time. I'm not a natural at all. But the circle 8, actually, it increases the blood flow to your pelvic floor. And this is both for men and women. Men have a pelvic floor as well. And so with that, you're increasing the blood flow there. So then that's going to help you to feel more sensation, more sensual,
activating the sacral energy. And
yes. And just romance yourself, take yourself on a date, And so then doing a self-pleasure session, you get your energy flowing, you're playing something that is sensual, something that, music that turns you on. And then just whenever you are doing the pleasure, take your time with yourself. Don't rush yourself through it.
Not a to-do on the checklist.
Yes. And so, when we're multitasking, we're not multi-orgasming,
Okay, this is gonna become one of the quotes for this episode.
So no, I was thinking that too as it came through. So one of the things that came through. So one of the things here is what I want you to do is I want you to imagine, and when this is really beautiful too. In Tantra, the Sanskrit word, Tantra is there's different lineages, but the one that I study is based in India. And the Sanskrit word for vulva or vagina is yoni, Y-O-N-I, which means sacred space. For males, for the penis, it's called lingam, L-I-N-G-H-A-M, and that means wand of light. I think that sounds so much better. So it's like this honoring of our body parts, instead of, that they're beautiful, that they're powerful. And so I want you to imagine from your sex organs to the top of your head that you have a straw, because it's going to be like that channel, on, if everyone can see the diagram of the chakras, if you're watching, then that's called the Sushumna Nadi in Sanskrit, which means inner flute. But to simplify it, we'll just say a straw. And that's where your energy centers are going to be. So as you're feeling the pleasure, I want you to breathe deeply and breathe from, your sex organ all the way to the top of your head. Even if you need to put your finger on the top of your head and just kind of give yourself some tactile stimulation and touch to remind yourself to kind of breathe.
Yeah.
And then what you're going to want to do is almost for males, they do this a lot called edging, but I think it's really beautiful for women to do too. Imagine that 0 on a pleasure scale means you're not turned on or aroused at all.
Yeah.
10 is orgasmic. I want you to get yourself up to about a 5 to a 7. If you stay at 7 too long, pretty fast, it's going to be 8, 9, 10. So whenever it starts to ramp up, kind of pause your hand for a moment and then focus on breathing the energy, the turn on more up through your body and your channel, because that will diffuse it.
Oh, okay. The more space you give it, the more you diffuse it. Makes sense.
Yeah, because you don't want it all congested in your pelvic area, right? So breathe it through. Plus that pleasure is medicine. Imagine that's just energizing and charging up all the cells to your body. It's really beautiful. So just continue to do that and breathe it up, and then moan your own name. But moaning is really great because, again, sound is like a thief. It steals the tension from the body. And when men hold more tension in their bodies, they orgasm more quickly. When women hold tension in our bodies, it's more challenging for us to orgasm. So,
interesting.
You could even, and if you're not comfortable moaning, you could breathe the pleasure up and then exhale with the sound, with the sigh, and go, just let it out.
Yeah. Okay.
and start to relax your body. And then
Mhm.
see how long can you stay between a 5 and 7 before you climax. And if you're not someone that's easy for you to have orgasms, no shame in that. Just focus on, instead of being performance, focus on how much pleasure can I allow myself to receive.
Yeah.
And sit with that. And even after you're finished, sit there for a moment and don't just rush off to do the next thing. Just bask in the bliss of all the pleasure and all that juiciness and yumminess, and allow your body to take it in. Because
Yeah.
one thing you're going to see is how we do one thing is how we do everything.
Mm.
So someone that has a challenge receiving help from other people, has a challenge and deflects compliments, they're also going to have a challenge receiving pleasure. And this also connects to how we manifest in law of attraction, because we're also going to be blocking, just like we block pleasure and deny ourselves that. Subconsciously, we're blocking and denying other
Other good
amazing
things that come our
experiences.
way. Mm.
Yes, it's all connected. And our ability to receive and our worthiness to receive pleasure
Mm.
and not shame ourselves and make ourselves bad or wrong.
Yeah. I feel, I mean, the ability to receive, that's something on a very unconscious level. Because if you ask people, oh, how would you rate your ability to receive? Most people would be like, either, I don't know, or they would be like, yeah, it's good. I can receive. So how can we work on our ability and our capacity to receive? Because I feel that's something most of us could do a little work on, me
Yeah.
included.
Yeah.
How
Well,
do we
one, the
start it?
pleasure practice itself is
Yes.
your ability to receive.
Yeah.
You're allowing yourself to receive pleasure. That's one. And then just start to notice, Jennifer, and everyone listening, notice how, if someone offers you a compliment, how often do we deflect or say, oh, this old thing, I got this at a thrift store, it's
Yeah.
nothing, or,
I just
or,
whipped this
oh,
up. It was, yeah. Are we
and we'll
downplaying
just
our
play it.
effort and worth?
Exactly. Like it's not a big deal. Instead of just allowing ourselves to receive the compliment and say, oh, thank you, I received that. Thank you. And when someone wants to help, it's been this era of the strong, independent women, and we're getting tired of it. It's just too much. And I think women are strong, and it's really great when we can be independent. But for us to always be so much in that we're always doing everything on our own all the time is a lot. So noticing even times when people will offer you assistance and then we don't take it. And we're like, oh no, I've got that, or I don't need help with that, when you really could use the help, but we don't want to feel obligated or owe
Yeah.
anyone anything. And
Yeah.
even if another practice you could do is even allow yourself to use Instacart to order your groceries so that you can free up time for yourself to have fun. Allow yourself to maybe hire someone on Fiverr to help you with a little project, or to work with you, or someone to do your lawn. Like allow someone to come in and support you, or to clean your house so that you're freed up to do something more of a creative passion or something else. Allow yourself to receive support and know that you're worth that.
Yeah. That reminds me that is just coming true when one of my close friends, when she had her baby, I went over to her house. And I was like, oh, like, would you like me to like watch the baby while you do, I don't know, whatever, take a shower? She's like, no, it's fine. Like I can shower later or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I know you can. I know you can shower. Like that's not the question. The question is, would you like help now? I'm not negotiating that you cannot shower yourself, but the question is, would you like help? So it's really like the mindset shift of, oh, I can do this. Yes, you can do this, but do you have to? Or would you rather not do it right now, which is equally valid?
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, noticing and awareness. And there can be a couple of things tied into it. I'm just playing with possibility, right? Is one,
Yeah.
there's a ton of mom guilt, and it's just like, oh, I need to be able to do everything and be super mom and handle all the things. And I've
Yeah.
got this. I'm capable. I'm able to do things. The other part too can be, especially as a new mom, we can be so isolated, especially in that first few weeks and months, and when we're taking time off from
Yeah.
work or
I
things
mean,
like
we got
that.
robbed of our community and the village. It's gone. It's not here for
Right.
most of us in Western
So when you're
civilization.
there, she may be like, I just really need some interaction with you. You want to jump in the shower with me? No, I'm kidding. But I need interaction with you in this time. And so
Yeah.
I would just like to do it later. But that's such a great awareness. I love that you asked. And we're like, okay, I know that you can do that, but would you like the help? How would
What is your need in this moment? And it's sometimes so hard for so many of us to truly acknowledge our need. It might like, oh, it might seem like frivolous to us, or like, oh, I don't really need this. Well, I mean, if you really, really fucking want it, and just go get it, go do it, go be it. Like,
I love
which
that.
is hard.
Yeah.
So I know from my listeners, sometimes I can like hear their questions without them actually like calling true. Like these radio talk shows. I don't know. One time I think I want to do like one of those where people call in with real life problems and then be like, yes, this is our answer. But sometimes I feel I kind of like get this through. There are two things coming true. One, and they're both kind of like together what we just said, like the mom guilt and being a new mom and then having small kids. It often, as you've also elaborated before, the Holy Madonna, the Madonna horror um, juxtaposition, where like we, there are a lot of us who feel estranged to our partners during, especially the postpartum period. And I know that happened to me too. There were moments where I'm looking like who is this dude? Like, what's going on? Um, how can we, if we would like to have more intimacy and pleasure in our relationships, we know it starts with the self, but there is this moment where you gotta talk to your partner about what you want and what you desire. How can we start approaching this moment where you're like, uh, you might fret it a little, but it has to like, you have to have a conversation.
Yeah. One, have the conversation outside of the bedroom. It's also really great. Like this could be a time if you have a baby and the weather permits, right? Go for a walk together, because whenever you're walking with someone and you're shoulder to shoulder, it's as if you're facing the problem together instead of looking at each other and
Oh,
almost
that's so
confrontational.
beautiful. Yes.
Because
Yes.
we are animal bodies, and our somatic
Mhm.
body can feel a little more defensive if we're like facing off with someone
Yeah.
instead of like this, like we're facing that together instead of this way. So that's a really great thing to do. And one with doing the self-pleasure things, a lot of times we can think when we're married, like, I shouldn't be doing that. My lover's gonna think
Again,
that,
shame, so much shame.
right, or my lover's gonna think they're inadequate or they're not doing enough. But to be the best lover, we need to first be our own best lover. And the more we connect with what really turns us on, and kind of even do pleasure mapping, and there's other practices that we can do with different sensation play, and we discover this and we can share that with a lover and say, man, when I did this the other day, or I used this toy or tried this, it felt so amazing. I can only imagine how incredible that would feel with you. Would you want to
Oh,
do
that's
that with
such a
me?
good segue into.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
I
gonna
bet like it would be much hotter with you. And then if you're inviting a toy in there and to the bedroom, it's so funny. Like men have these fantasies about threesomes. The threesome we should be having is with a toy,
Oh, okay.
right? And then because one, it's going to enhance the pleasure for the woman, because usually men, unless they've been trained with Tantra, they don't know how to last as long. And we have an orgasm gap because men on average last 5 to 10 minutes. And then women, it takes us like 15 to 20 minutes to get to peak orgasm state. So we're missing each other
Yeah.
because men are like microwave ovens, really quick to turn on. Boom, I'm done.
This
And
is also
women
gonna
were
be
like,
like this episode's full of best quotes. I'm sorry. Please continue,
yeah.
Dominique.
And then women were like an oven, like, please preheat me. And it's going to take some time. This is a souffle. This is a fine meal. This is not something that you just pop in and zap in a
Yeah,
microwave,
it's
right?
not a bag of popcorn.
Exactly. And so, knowing that, then having the toy will actually be able to prolong the pleasure for a woman and take the pressure off a man for, as you change positions, as certain things happen, if they're not as erect, then it takes that away. But use a toy that maybe doesn't look like a penis, that is, maybe purple,
Oh,
or
there's
you know
so
what I'm
many
saying?
options. Purple, glittery, I don't know, looks like a rabbit, like whatever. It's
Yeah. And so
Mm.
something, and then even you're going to want to be careful, if you're doing any backdoor play, the toys should have a base and be made for that, because I have been a nurse and taken care of patients that got lost inside their body and they had to have it surgically removed, which is
Yes. Oh my
wild.
God. Safety first, always. Yes.
Safety first, always. But one of the things that you could do also is, like, imagine if you're giving your lover oral and you got the tip of that and you just gently put it behind their ball sack where that taint, the perineum is, their
Mm-hmm.
prostate is there, and just put it there gently and allow some external
Like counter
vibration to that.
pressure. Mm.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
vibration sensation
Yeah.
as you're doing something with your mouth or whatever. You can play with
Mm-hmm.
these things and make it something that enhances both of your experiences, and just focus on not so much how many orgasms can we have, but how long can we be in states of
Yeah.
pleasure together.
Yeah.
Now, with a baby, that can be a challenge. I did have a client that he had great sex with his wife, and they've been married for several years, and then they'd recently had a baby, and all of a sudden he was finishing faster, and he says was having some premature ejaculation challenges. Well, one, there's a lot of pressure on men to be the
Yeah.
protector and the provider with the baby, so
So, and
there's
you
a lot
said
more
more
stress.
pressure, the quicker the ejaculation. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And then the thing, when I was coaching him, I realized is that because they didn't want to wake the baby, they weren't using sound.
Oh, no moaning, just shh, shh, shh.
And so then he wasn't able to moan and, like, let that tension off of his body. So when they had a
Interesting.
sitter, when they had a sitter and then they had sex and they could moan and do all the things,
Or like a
then
hotel room,
yeah,
or
then he
a
was able
treat.
to have an incredible experience with her, and that was
Ah,
problem solved. So it's interesting when I just work with people and I can figure out what the common blocks are for women or for men that are
yeah.
blocking us in the bedroom, and it can even be a subconscious block, and then how do we break through that block so then we can
So
have such a
fascinating.
better experience. But yeah, adding the toy in helps to get things ramped up. And also, if you're doing a self pleasure thing, I do want to circle back. When you're
Hmm.
self pleasuring, be sure that you're aroused and turned on before you insert a toy or something into your body, because one, that can cue not being safe. Your body's like, did I just get violated? What happened? I wasn't even ready for that. But
Yeah.
because we're so mechanical, like, oh, it's my thing, here's my lube, boom, we just go through the motions again. We're
Like
in our brain
mindlessly,
and our
kind of like
body.
absent and just kind of like push the play button and then it just goes. Mm,
And then we wonder why we're not responding sexually the same in the
mm,
same ways. It can be that our body is actually not feeling safe,
mm.
because we need to, like, give
Slow
ourselves,
down.
again, don't treat ourselves like a microwave oven. Take the time with ourselves, check in, even ask to
Yeah.
ourselves and our voice inside our head, like, are you ready for this? Is this okay? And just get that consent, that yes, and start to let your body start to feel safer.
Mm.
And when also, as women, if we are with a lover and we don't want to tell them that we're not quite ready and we're not voicing up and sharing that, and we just let them go in, and it can be a little uncomfortable, or we're not really as aroused or quite ready for that. And I think even on our media and stuff, like, women need to be so tight. So we're like, okay, if I'm not super wet, then it's going to feel really tight. There's a bunch of reasons why we can tolerate this, or we don't want to hurt their feelings or whatever. But your body, you're wondering why you're not having as much pleasure with that person. Well, your body is a little frustrated. It's not responding to you because you're not taking care of it and
Yeah.
honoring it.
You're not listening to the cues it's giving you.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't rush or force these things. Take your time with it and be curious.
Yeah.
And one of my very best lovers that I have is that we are actually laugh a lot in the bedroom, and, like, silly or embarrassing moments that I would have just been like, I would have been mortified with anyone else. And we will just
Yeah.
laugh and giggle about it. It's not that serious. And when you can
Yeah.
fully be with someone and know how to make love to their soul, that's how we make soulmates. In
Yeah.
our world, we're just taught how to have shallow, skin to skin, superficial sex,
Yeah.
ego to ego, no intimacy, just going through the moves, going through the motions. And then we're wondering, well, why don't I have a soulmate relationship? Tantra creates soulmate relationships because soul mating, making love to someone's soul.
It's in the word. Yeah.
So if you don't know how to do that, so if you only know how to have shallow, superficial experiences where there's no depth or connection, and then you wonder why your relationship is lacking depth and connection. It's all connected.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's so like, and you can start really small, right? Like the deepness of the relationship, it's with everything. As you said, everything is connected. Like how deeply are you allowing yourself to be moved by a beautiful sunset, or by the like if you hear the wind rustling through the leaves, anything really. There's it's not all the time every day, but sometimes these moments, they become so clear and there's so much beauty. That reminds me of the movie American Beauty with the plastic bag in the wind. As a pop culture reference, I don't know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
just how much beauty do you allow yourself, and like how deeply do you allow yourself to be moved by beauty?
Yeah. I remember once I was going through a 2-year time period of celibacy. I actually had periods of celibacy on my Tantra path that I never had before because I just approached sex in a different way. And not for the power that it actually holds for me. And I was meditating outside in nature in the morning, and I had like a short sleeve shirt on. And I laugh with my daughter's an adult. I laugh with her later and share with her because she was talking about not being celibate for a couple of months. I was like, oh wait, I've got one here for you. But what happened was the breeze blew across my skin and it just sent chills all through me. And I was like, you know, day 458 of no sex. Like I'm literally about to to melt down because of the way the wind blew. I was like, geez.
Wow.
But it's like,
Yeah.
how much can you connect to with all your
Yeah.
5 senses to the world around you?
It's beautiful if you can connect this way. I mean, there's
Yeah.
stunningly beautiful. Okay, so I want to circle back for the last kind of like sub chapter of our conversation, and it's going to circling back to like the miseducation um of our sexuality and our pleasure, and how so many of us have been raised by parents who did not mirror sexuality and intimacy in a way that we could like that we were receptive to. So I have a 5-year-old now, and I know a lot of people listening have kids too. How can we be better parents? How can we mirror our relationship with sexuality and intimacy and pleasure and devotion? How can we do better than our parents?
By taking away the shame that is charged into this and just knowing this is a normal bodily function. And
Yeah.
I feel like not acting like this is something that you don't do, because this is one thing is if we're just acting as if mom and dad never have sex. Not, you don't need to be sexually explicit in front of them, but if
Yeah.
you're not having
Or
affection,
share
if they're just, you know,
kisses or
that
hugs
passion, physical touch, no public displays of affection, or they're really shut down in that way,
yeah.
then you're going to think that it's wrong too. And then you're not going to feel comfortable having the conversation with them about it because they're acting like everyone's acting like no one's having sex. But yeah, I'm here, I'm your child. Obviously, something went down.
Yeah.
And if we can't talk about these topics, how are our children going to talk to us? I would always rather my daughters come to me with their questions instead of their friends, you know, as
Or
a
Google.
nurse. Yeah. And this is, you know, a lot before Google even too, but yes, be able to ask me and then me be able to guide them with what I know and being able to have those conversations and knowing this is just stages of life. We can't keep our children like little forever, but give them the empower them with the right information
Yeah.
so they can make the best decisions for themselves. But also having that intimacy and not acting so prude or so shut down, like let's say something sensual, not explicit, but some love making scenes. And
Yeah.
then someone could turn off the TV and like, we're not watching that in this house. Like if you just make it so wrong or taboo, like how are your kids going to even approach that conversation with you?
Yeah.
And another thing too, anyone that has children, both mother and father should watch. It's on Netflix now. It's a documentary called Fair Play.
Mm.
And they actually have a card deck as well that mothers and fathers can use to see how the labor of the house is really being divided up. Because that's one thing that I will share with my male clients too, because if you're wanting to have more passion and there's new babies and little ones, of course, a lot of the attention, the energy goes to the little ones. So what can you do to support or to take off some of the things that the woman is doing as the CEO of the household so that she actually has the bandwidth? Because as a woman, if we're always self-sacrificing and we're putting our needs on the back burner and we're putting someone else in front of us and we're exhausted and our friends can tell we barely have time to take a shower, right? So if we're going there, do you think we're going to prioritize when our husband wants to have sex when we're not even prioritizing ourselves?
I can tell you from my experience, we do not.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, if she does not even have the time and she's neglecting her own needs, she's going to neglect her needs. So how can you encourage her to stop neglecting her needs? How can you support with something that she might want to do? How can you get someone to help you watch the kids or something so she can go and have lunch with her friends or get out for just a moment to be something other than just in mom mode all the time so she can connect to other aspects of herself? And, can you have someone help with cleaning of the house, Instacart, deliver groceries? What can you do to take some things off of her plate? Because again, as a woman, we're going to be like, oh, I'm capable, I can do that. Or I need to be the
which
perfect
goes back to the
mom.
conversation we had before. Just because you're capable doesn't mean you have to fucking do it.
Exactly. So if you want more passion in the bedroom, let her recharge her batteries so she can even connect to what her needs and desires are, and not feel so overwhelmed or kind of burned out in all the demands of raising really young children.
Oh, this is so good. Oh, I'm curious, what do you think? We said, right, to kind of like see that we do not build up shame around sexuality and intimacy. And this starts way earlier than probably most people are comfortable with. I mean, our formative years are like 3 to 7. So while we haven't yet had like a talk about sexuality in a broader sense, I mean, my kid knows the baby grew in my belly, but he doesn't explicitly know how it got there, which is fine for now. He's 5. But at the same time, we make sure like we really put a lot of attention to the words he uses. So we really like, no, this is called penis. And this is called a vulva. This is part of my genitals. Like this is like we have like it's a clitoris. We have the labia. Like just we're not calling it weird kind of like woo woo.
I think that's important.
Names. Like just be really clear to kind of like don't even like I mean they will have some shame around it anyway. This is like you cannot control culture and society at large, but the words we use when we talk about these things, it starts when the kids are very, very young.
Yeah. And if you happen to catch some self-pleasuring or something like that happening, not to make that wrong or to make them feel bad about it. I know I would joke with my daughter's friends and I would just say, I think I was in the car with my daughter and her friends. They were teenagers. And I think it was something like, did you know that over 50% of people don't masturbate and then or masturbate and then the other 50% they're just liars? You know what I'm saying? Like people are lying. Act like this doesn't happen. I can't remember exact wording, but basically the premise is like this is a normal function that everyone does. And if they're saying they don't do it, it's just, they're lying, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, and just for me, humor and just making something into a lighter situation instead of taking the charge of it being wrong or
Yeah.
dirty or bad, was one way that I navigated it. And my mother was very hypersexual. And I ended up losing my virginity later than my friends. And not to say losing, like we didn't really lose anything, but you know, old dumb terms. But I wasn't sexually active until much later than my friends. And part of that was the fact that I wasn't rebelling against anything. My mother was like, oh my gosh, you know, you're going to love sex. I love sex. Your dad loves sex. Your grandparents love sex. Whenever you want to have sex, you
God,
let
this
me
is a
know.
sentence that would
And
not have crossed, like, came out of my mom's mouth. Like,
yeah, let me know when you want to be on the pill and I'll put you on the pill. Cause like, and
yeah, girl,
I
safety
was
first.
so afraid. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be wild like my mom and be like the school slut. Cause again, shame. Um, and there were so many times that I really wish that my mother was more the Susie homemaker, not such the wild child. You know, it's like, man, I can't even take you to a PTA meeting. You're just too much. You're too over the top with everything. And she's since passed because she had me much later in her life. And once when I was in LA, I would go to these, I would actually get to go several times. I went to the Playboy Mansion to the parties there. And I was a recurring guest on Playboy Radio, and I would take questions from
Oh,
callers.
wow.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And this
Mhm.
was before Tantra. And I already thought I knew everything I needed to know about sex. And then with Tantra, I realized I
Wow.
had only scratched the surface of what was possible. So this was really wild. But when I was there and I had this moment and I thought about my mom, because I was like, oh my gosh, my mom would be so thrilled that I was at the Playboy Mansion. And her dad would too. Like my granddad used to get the subscriptions to Playboy magazine when I was a kid. And so I was just like, oh, they would be so excited. And then it hit me. I was like, you know what? This is why she was your mom, because I'm so comfortable talking about sex because my mother would joke about it. She was kind of like Mae West. She would talk about it and she would just like, you know, this is something we all do, you know, get over it. And that's helped me to be with my gift now. I can talk about it and take away the awkwardness. And that's one of the things my clients really like about working with me is because we can talk about it, have conversations, and I'm able to go there in places in ways where they actually feel safe to have the
Yeah.
conversation or get their questions answered, because we don't have enough safe spaces like that in our world.
100%. Yeah. And I love that you bring humor into, because this is also like like a tool I love very much in my toolbox, just to bring humor in, and it's really helpful for the most difficult of conversations.
Yeah.
And I would always have this running joke with my clients where, I don't know, we could talk about like the death of the, like the identity of the self, and we would be laughing and be like in stitches about it. And it's like, if anyone else would see us, it would be like, what are you like? It's just so important to not take everything so fucking seriously.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, so Dominique, if people are like, okay, I want to hear more about Tantra, I want to hear more about Dominique, I want to like get Dominique to figure out why we're stuck in a no sex zone, where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, yestantra.com, Tantra. And I actually have a free quiz there to see if you're ready for Tantra. It also will help you identify if you're having intimacy blocks or what might be blocking you in the bedroom. And how we show up in the bedroom is how we show up in the boardroom, how we show up in the Zoom room, how we show up in the world. So it's really interesting. So I have that free quiz available. And then I share videos and things on my YouTube, which is Yes Tantra. So those are the spaces. And then I coach people one-to-one coaching. I have some courses. I have one that's healing from sexual shame, and it's a masterclass replay that people can get. All of those things are on my website. And I'm about to launch a mastermind soon on like vitality, life force
Yeah.
energy, you know, how we give our power away in all these areas, not just sex, but for our health, because I've been a nurse for over 30 years as well. And I've seen how much these trapped emotions and shame and things like that diminish our life force energy. And that's where dis-ease has an opportunity to come into our bodies. So just helping people live a more vibrant, passionate life.
Okay, we're gonna link everything in the show notes, so don't fret if you haven't like wrote it down now. And I always have one last question before I let anyone off the hook. What book are you currently reading, or what audiobook you're listening to?
Oh my goodness, I have a few of them.
Yeah, I see. I mean, your backdrop is full of books, which I love. Like, yes, obsessed.
I'm like a hoarder of books. I have books here on my Kindle, on my Audible.
How many books are you reading simultaneously at the same time?
There's 2 that I have ongoing now, and there's one that, hold on, let me just take a peek because I want to make sure. I really love this one. I'm just like, I need to recommend this one to my clients. So I do want to be sure that I share it correctly. Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Such a good book. I have just whizzed through that. I have like 30 minutes left. I have 30 minutes left on it for a few weeks or so. I think I'm afraid to look through it. And then there's another book by Dan Martell, like on marketing and business and things like that, that I listen to. So I mix it up with things, but bringing in even like quantum leaping and things, like bringing in, instead of saying like, this is going to be what future me is going to be this, and we're creating this distance. And again, the gap, how do we close that gap and just be like, okay, how would my future self handle this?
Yeah, because there's actually no gap.
Exactly.
Okay, but this is like, I know
we could go on a whole other thing.
I know we probably have lost some of you there listening. You're like, wait, what did you like? How can you like be on the outskirts of the podcast and drop something like this? I'm like, please accept my apologies. So another episode on, I don't know, the mirage of time. Because it's all one and the same. But no. Yeah, we're gonna need another hour.
We'll schedule that. We'll have a return.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, please. But for now, Dominique, thank you so much for creating this safe space with me on the Scenic Ground podcast to talk about sexuality and intimacy and devotion and pleasure. And let's hope for many more conversations, and I hope we spark some.
Yes, I hope so too. And thanks so much for inviting me to be here. And thanks everyone for listening. It's just an honor to share with everyone. And just know, I think with Tantra and with these other things, it's like us being able to shine our light. It reminds me of that little song when I was a kid, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, and just really lighting yourself up. Yeah. And then we can just be that lighthouse and that shining light to help other people find their way home. I think it's so important. So thanks, everyone.
It is. And the light is always and already in you. There's nothing external nothing to buy to get it. You're safe. You're good.
Yeah, it's exactly. There. Exactly.
Dominique, thank you so much.
And just like that, we've reached the end of another journey together on the Scenic Route podcast. Thank you for spending time with us. Curious for more stories or in search of the resources mentioned in today's episode? Visit us at scenicroutepodcast.com for everything you need. And if you're ready to embrace your scenic route, I've got something special for you. Step off the beaten path with my Scenic Route affirmation card deck. It's crafted for those moments when you're seeking courage, yearning to trust your inner voice, and eager to carve out a path authentically, unmistakably yours. Pick your Scenic Route affirmation today and let it support you. Excited about where your journey might lead? I certainly am. Remember, the Scenic Route is not just about the destination, but the experiences, learnings, and joy we discover along the way. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on the Scenic Route again.